Gauteng police have launched an investigation following the discovery of a fourth burnt female body between the Watloo and Denneboom train stations near Mamelodi east of Pretoria. According to police spokesperson Brigadier Brenda Muridili, the body was discovered at the Watloo train station in Stormvoel Street in Silvertondale on Monday afternoon.
3 more bodies were found between Watloo and Denneboom train stations between June and July of 2025. No one has been arrested yet, but the task team, which has been established to investigate these matters, is working around the clock following possible leads to trace the perpetrators. The team comprises of seasoned detectives, crime intelligence, forensic, as well as crime scene experts. Police are appealing to anyone who might have information that can help in the investigation to kindly contact their nearest police station or to call Crime Stop number 08600 10111.
Pierre Gildenhuys is the head of forensics investigations at D&K Management Consultants. We now unpack this a little bit further. Pierre, if you have 4 bodies discovered in the space of a couple of weeks across 2 months, all seemingly burned in a similar area, are those the markings of a serial killer on the loose?
Oliver, I think so. I believe that the cops are having all of the top dogs as they should on the case. I think when you discover a body in South Africa nowadays, for the general public, it's just another body, and it's become so sad. But when things happen very similarly in sequence, very close to each other, you have to start asking, maybe these are connected. If we have to use a test of the reasonable person and on balance of probabilities, if you ask me, are they connected? Are we dealing with a serial killer? I would think so. I think I don't know exactly the modus operandi of these killings and how the bodies are found and in which state are they found. Obviously, we know they are burnt, but it does indicate to me that we are dealing with this.
Yeah. The thing about serial killers is that they're often a couple of steps ahead of the cops, but eventually they get caught out. This is why we have so many serial killer documentaries, right? It's an entire genre of entertainment, seemingly. But if there's something particularly unique about serial killer, is that they're often unpredictable until they're not. How do we begin to collect data points to help us identify the modus operandi, to help us predict when the next murder might happen, how the next murder might happen, and where the next murder might happen? How do investigators like yourself usually get on the trail of a serial killer?
If this was our case, if D&K Management Consultants had to investigate this case, I would start predominantly with 2 things. I would start with the interviews of the relatives, if we can identify them, if the relatives can positively identify their loved ones, the deceased. We need to start with interviews with the families, and secondly, to pin each body location to an area, and in between, let's say for example, it's between 2 train stations. What I would do is I would launch an undercover investigation to deploy intelligence operators and informers on the ground at the times the bodies were found, more or less, if we can determine what time they were killed. And I would infiltrate the area with informers, with undercover agents, traveling on the trains, traveling in the area day and night. And then obviously, lastly, we have to rely on the public information. People might know something, people might have seen something, and that's obviously very crucial to an investigation where sometimes you don't know where to start, you don't know where to ask the questions. But those 3 things, I think predominantly the information from the relatives, undercover intelligence, and obviously information from any member of the public that could prove useful.
Yeah. Well, all 4 bodies have been burnt, Pierre. What sort of forensics pathology data points would you need to help you make use of that information in a way that you could perhaps prevent it or find the killer? Burning a body doesn't seem like an awfully sophisticated exercise. One might have to ask how the bodies are burnt, where they're burnt, and what substances are used to fuel the burning. What sort of data points would you need from the forensics pathology unit?
Well, I think firstly to identify if they were burnt whilst they were laying in the veld or wherever the body was discovered, or whether the body was burnt and then dumped elsewhere. I think that would prove crucial to the investigation. I think perhaps whether the body was burned when the person was alive or after the person was murdered by the perpetrator. I think that could prove crucial. And lastly, possibly what accelerant or how the body was burnt. Was it just set alight, or was something poured over the person? I think those are some of the points that could prove crucial.
What often seems to be the difference between a murderer in a once-off instance versus a serial murderer, a serial killer, is that in the instance of a serial killer, the motive is a lot more esoteric. The motive is beyond just, I want to kill, to steal, or to, derive material benefit from this. The motive seems to be a little bit more sophisticated than that. How do you begin to trace the motive?
That I'm not sure of. I'm not a psychologist by trade. But I do believe, and from the little that I know about psychology, obviously, I think, when you do such things, it has to stem away from just a once-off killing. It also could be that the person is a serial rapist and he doesn't want these people to speak, and he doesn't want his DNA to be discovered, and maybe he believes by burning his victims, he would eradicate some of that evidence to a large extent. And it could be that it's not necessarily murder, but it is a serial rapist which turned into a serial killer that is now just trying to silence his victims.
Yeah. Do psychologists play a role in the investigation of what seems to be a serial killer case file?
I think we see it a lot in the movies, but I think it is important to have these type of people to profile the suspect, to tell us what type of person is likely to do these crimes. We know that it's not a perfect science, but at least it could help the top brass on the case to identify what type of person we are looking at. I don't know how far they could profile such a person by looking at the scene, at the bodies, at the ages, perhaps other details we could find out from the deceased. If they could put together a well-informed profile for the team to work off, I think for people on the ground, like informers, like undercover agents, it could prove absolutely useful to say, listen, at least we know we are looking for this type of person. But I don't think it's a perfect science in any day. But any help at this stage, I would say, is welcomed, because we don't know where to start. We have to start somewhere. So absolutely any help that we can get is crucial at this point.
Yeah. Pierre Gildenhuys, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Pierre Gildenhuys is the head of forensics investigations at D&K Management Consultants, a private investigative outfit. The draft marriage bill of 2023 seeks to give explicit legal expression to polygamy and polyandry, where both men and women can legally be married to more than one wife or more than one husband. This seems to be quite contentious. We speak about this on the other side of the short break.